Grace and peace to you all. Welcome to another episode of the TBT Show. I'm Anthony Moten. My partner in crime, as always, is Sean P. Aguilar. I'm very excited about today's episode as we talk around family and marriage and things that should be important to our culture. I thank God for our guest. He's a friend and a brother for real. He's been married for 28 years to his childhood sweetheart, my sister Josette Robinson. They're the proud parents of Nastasia, who is a U.S. Air Force veteran and a proud alumni of the Texas Southern University. Our guest today has been ministering for 30 years in various capacity of ministry, 10 years as assistant pastor. He is in full-time ministry as the elder of married and single families at the Crossover Fellowship. He has a bachelor's degree from Moody Bible Institute and a degree in care and counseling from Columbia International University. And so I'm thankful that our guest is here. I want to introduce you to him, my friend and brother for real, Royce F. Robinson. Royce, thank you for being here with us.
Man, I am so honored. This is a pleasure. Man. We talked about this, over a year ago. We talked about, doing some things, collaborating, and you being a pastor and being in ministry and having a heart for marriages and family. And said, hey, man, one day I'm going to have to call you up, man. I was like, hey, let's make it happen.
Right.
Let's make it happen.
Right. Who knew it was going to take this long? But I'm excited. I'm happy. So to those of our listeners who've been living under a rock and don't know who Royce is, just tell us a little bit about yourself and what God has called you to with this season in ministry.
Well, man, all that phony stuff you just read, I was like, man, who is that guy? But no, man, born and raised Houston all my life, Northeast Houston. Went to Kirby Middle School, Tidwell Elementary. So if you're out there and you're a Tidwell Wildcat or a Kirby Cougar, or of course, as I heard you say on one of the podcasts I listened, I did my homework, a little bit of it anyway, the MB Smiley High School.
Absolutely.
That was those are the three schools came from. And of course, met my lovely wife as kids. We actually have a mutual person that we know. It was kind of like a cousin for her in the Dyersdale apartment complex area, 902 Sterling Shaw, apartment number 306. I remember that.
Wow.
Never forget where you come from. But and so we met back then as kids. Of course, we met again. I went to the same middle school and started, courting. And my famous story is, I also write music, and before we went on the air, you were sharing one of those stories. But I wrote my first song for her. And we sung it I sung it to her in Miss Cobb's class. Craig would remember who Miss Cobb is. That was before. You remember Miss Cobb?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we sung it in Miss Cobb's class. And Sean, we were sitting on the risers, and I said, I wrote a song for you. She was like, really? Like, yeah, I want to sing this song to you. So man, I leaned her over on my lap, and I sang the song in her ear. First song I ever wrote, Sean. I let her raise up, and I was like, what you think? And she looked at me, Sean, and she say, you spit in my ear. It's a wonder I ever wrote another song in my life. She said, you spit in my ear. But yeah, so we've been together for ages, man, and then just became best friends. Got to the point to where I got tired of looking at, her boyfriends, and, was hoping she got tired of looking at my girlfriends, and then we just decided to do it.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
Wow, that's and I remember those days. I was watching, trying to learn.
Yeah.
I didn't think you spit in my ear response, but I was trying to learn. And
Scarred
I
me for
remember
life.
Josette's mom was much like a mother to many of us.
Oh wow.
Riding.
Yeah, riding the bus. She was a school bus. She was a bus driver for North Forest. I'd be remiss to not say her name. Sister Diane Edmondson of Grace Cathedral Church, Pastor Charles Taylor. And of course, you mentioned I'm from a crossover with Pastor Blake Wilson. You always got to throw all the pastors' names in. Yeah. Whenever you get a chance, you got to throw everybody's name in there. And of course, the background where we come from, the Canaan Missionary Baptist Church.
Absolutely.
Pastor L.V. Adams.
Absolutely.
But yeah, Miss Edmondson, man, she was she had that presence about her in the district. She had that presence about her on those school buses. She demanded respect.
Yeah.
She had a nickname, Matt Dillon. They called her Matt Dillon because she didn't play. But yeah, man, she was much like that person that people could look to.
Yeah. Wow. So again, I know your heart is marriage and family, and I told Sean as we started thinking, what could we do special for Father's Day?
Wow.
I'm like, because I believe it's a pain point for our culture. And so we can, we can start the conversation here, because looking at our culture, and our community, Northeast Houston, things have changed, and they've changed drastically.
Sure.
And it used to be ages ago where our entire existence, cornerstone of that was marriage and family.
Mm-hmm.
And my upbringing, it was faith and family and nothing else.
Absolutely.
So looking at observing the generation as it is now, can you see the slide, the decline in how we value marriage and family?
I can, and here's the downside of it. I won't say downside. I'll say crazy, because it's weird. Sean, it's like the more successful we got, the less we emphasize family. When we didn't have much, when we didn't have anything, when we wasn't allowed to own this or go here, we knew we had family we could rely on. And so you saw it. Yeah, you had broken homes. I grew up in a single parent home. But you did have more of a family dynamic and concept and a value for family. I'll put it like that, a value for family, than you do now. I think we've almost gotten so successful to where we feel like we don't need family to a degree. We have more access to things, I'll say it like this. It's going to sound crazy, but the men of yesterday couldn't just get up and go on a trip, without taking the family.
Mm-hmm.
If they was going to Deucin Park back in the day, that was our trip. That's our vacation. Deucin Park. We're going to Herman, Deucin Park. We're going to the zoo is where we're going.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you can tell the wife, hey, babe, I'm finna go on a trip. We're going on a deep sea fishing trip. Or me and the fellas, we're going over to Brazil. And, we're doing stuff like that. Where did that come from? Well, I got the means now. I have the resources now to do some of the things that, unfortunately, I ain't trying to go biblical, but my depravity will let me do now.
Right.
I can afford to be as depraved as I want to be now. So I think that's some of it. I do believe that some of the seeds we planted years ago in our school systems, I think that has a lot to do with it. We always run to taking prayer out of school, and people say, well, you can still pray at home. Yeah, but when I was only praying at school, at least I was praying.
Right.
Yeah. Now I'm not even praying there, and things like that. So when I look at, how did we get here? Have I seen a decline? I've absolutely seen a decline. Some of it has come through by way of media. Some of the shows, these reality shows, man, they are really getting into the spirit of the family and making people think, you know what? I don't even have to work this out with you anymore. Let me just leave and go start new somewhere else. So the idea of working through problems is gone, because what they see on TV is, this season it's Mike and Michelle. Next season is Mike and Jennifer. Next season is Mike is consistent. It's Michelle and Jennifer and Lisa that keep changing.
Right.
And
saying they first cousins.
Right. So I think that's some of it. Some of it.
Gotcha. Family is, and expressly now, being redefined. And again, we had, and I'm old school.
Yeah.
So we there were, single family, households then.
Sure.
And some other things, but the nucleus of the family was still the same.
Yes.
And for whatever reason, and I'm not trying to pinpoint any one thing, it's just the redefinition of family.
Okay.
Like this generation. And so, kids are now going to school with other kids who maybe have mom, dad, sisters, brothers at home.
Yep.
that are going to school with children that talk about family in a different context because they got, you know, two mamas, two daddies, you know, a brother that identifies himself as a sister one day and a tree the next day. And it's just like everything is so fluid and constantly changing. Do you think that is one of the reasons where we've drifted, you know, left as it relates to family?
Yeah, I think so. But it goes back to the media and what we see and what they have deemed to be acceptable has now, we've placed a stamp on it, but I think it comes from what was, as we know in the Bible world, that it was that depravity, that lustful, that lust pattern, so to speak, according to James. You know, I was carried away by my own lust. And, you know, when lust conceived, it brings forth sin, sin brings forth death, and you got all of that. But I think I believe there was some of that stuff was always there. I think society, culture has told us we don't have to fight it anymore. And so we can just give it, it's okay. So now we're like, okay, cool. And we do it. And what I don't know if we saw coming was this redefining of family and what that was going to look like. I don't know if we saw that coming. We saw it. I remember having conversations with people like, well, man, you know, who are we hurting? We're not hurting anybody. And, you know, this is another. And I'm like, okay, cool. I got you. Well, wait a minute. Wait. 10 years, 20 years, 15, 20 years later, you're like, oh, wait, that's when we were hurting. Or that's what we were doing. Now, some people, please don't send an email, don't text. I know some people don't view it as hurting. Got it. But in our context of defining the family from a biblical standpoint, husband, wife, kids, it took a hurt.
Right.
Yeah, it did take a blow to that. Right. So there was some suffering in terms of how God sees marriage and Bible, you know, according to that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. One of the things I just, you know, before we got on the air, I shared with Royce, we're getting ready to celebrate 23 years. And, you know, I see him, I can't say I'm 29 anymore. Him and Josette been 28 years.
28.
If you could, and I know you've seen marriage and issues and how to do, you know, handle conflict resolution and, you know, the whole nine. If you could point out any three things. Because again, I don't know, Sean, did I turn you on to it? Royce does marriage maintenance in a minute.
Yeah. Oh, I'm a subscriber.
That's what I'm talking about.
I'm a subscriber.
Yes,
actually, he was right on my street. The last illustration I saw involved the windshield.
Yes, sir.
You know, so that's in my industry. Yeah. And I was like, paint the picture, Doc.
Yeah.
Paint the picture.
So you approve.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. 100%.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if you could warn a couple that's about to make that leap of any two or three things to guard for, what would they be?
2 or 3 things to guard for. I would say you have to understand that communication is the centerpiece of the marriage. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Now we're gonna assume that Christ is already in the picture. Okay, because I'm gonna just make that assumption.
Right.
Make that assumption. Maybe I should. But communication is what we consider. It's the centerpiece of the wheel. And all the spokes stem from it.
Right.
You got to talk about money. You got to talk about sex. You got to talk about the kids. You got to talk about future, church, jobs. You got to talk about everything. So if you're not talking, then you are going to suffer in all of those areas. You run the risk of suffering in all those areas. And so, you have to, many times, I hate starting a sentence and stopping, but many times.
I love it. That means you think it.
Yeah. Many times people come into a marriage relationship thinking that you married me for who I am, so I must be good. I must be perfect to a degree. Therefore, I don't need to make any changes because you married me like this. You knew what you were getting into. What the individual who says that forgets is this marriage arena is different than anything else. So if I said I'm not a talker, I'm a quiet person, I'm a quiet guy, I don't do all that talking. Well, that's fine. That worked well for you as a single. But in this marriage arena, that don't go over well. If you don't know that, and you assume you married me like I am, you knew I was quiet, you knew I didn't go all that back and forth. Hey, you knew I like to talk. You knew I just blah, 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 blah. You told me it was cute one time. You told me that's what you liked about me. If you don't understand how important it is to develop effective communication, that's going to be a problem. And both people have to give. That was one of the videos, matter of fact, on marriage maintenance. Both people have to come out of their corner and say, you know what? I'm a talker. You're not. I have to love you enough and know that and be observant enough to say, I can't always talk. Because if I'm always talking, it's like boxing. The person who's quiet, especially in conflict, it can be like somebody just hitting one of those speed bags. Because you're just coming just 100 miles an hour. So if you're coming at me like that from a communication standpoint, I'm overwhelmed. It's like I'm playing double dutch. I never know when can I get in. When, you know. And, so what I do is I just say, you know what, forget it.
Right.
I just let you talk.
Right.
Shut down.
I shut down, and therefore I get nowhere. But if I'm not the talker, so the talker has to know when to back off and give some space and allow the person to process what it is that they said. The person who doesn't talk a lot, they got to know, hey, you know what? I can't afford to continue to be like this and not be a talker. I got to talk. I got to communicate. So everybody, as we say, Joe said in our coined the phrase, growth is for both. Growth is for both. Everybody has to grow in that process. So communication is one. That's what I would say is one key aspect. Community. I would say community is another. You know, we grew up, we talk about the old school days, and there was some value to them old school days, but the old school days and old school families also had some, as we call them, growth areas. They wasn't strong in the area of community as it relates to marriage. They live by the code, and I'll start it, and I bet you're going to finish. What happens in this house
stays in this house.
That's it. That's what they live by. All right. What this is my business. I'm a grown man, I'm a grown woman. Whatever go down in here stays in here. Here's what happened with that. Big Daddy had kids on the north side of town. He had kids in Beaumont. He had kids in Lubbock. And Mama couldn't tell nobody. She suffered in silence. She suffered in silence. So if you don't have a community around you, even from a biblical standpoint, if we got to go there, the Bible does not, it warns us against being isolated. It warns against us being isolated. Now, of course, it's talking about more of an individual, you know, but when we look at marriage, marriage is one. Two became one. That one can't be by itself. That one has to have a community of people, man. So we strongly in our premarital counseling, we advise to have accountability partners, somebody who's spiritually mature, preferably older than you in marriage, you know, and it'd be the same couple. Now, why do we put those parameters there? Because you already got that dynamic of what goes on in this house stays in this house. So you can honor that to a degree. So let's do this. We won't start off with a community. We just start off with one couple. You know, that one couple. Here's what happens in that context. When Royce comes in late, 3:00 in the morning, smelling like some cheap perfume and got glitter on him, you know. Josette can reach out to Anthony and say, Anthony, your boy came in, you know, 3:00 in the morning. Remember we talked about this last week? Here you go again. Anthony calls Royce, choose him a new one, and Royce doesn't get to go back to Anthony and, you know, or go back to Josette and say, hey, why you call him? She can't do that because we already have that agreement. This is our couple that we can call. Same thing for flip side. Hey, man, I ain't, Josette, man, we ain't had sex in 2, 3, 4 weeks. You know, I need you to get on your girl. And that's a phone call. And then we're done. There's no back and forth. So, I mean, so communication, living in the community is another. And number 3, I would say, man, just, I would say serve. There's an element of service in marriage that gets overlooked. We use in our premarital counseling, we use Philippians chapter 2, 3 through 5, I think of the other more highly than yourself. You know, don't look out for your own interests, but look out for the interests of others. And so we literally, our first session in premarital covers that scripture. And we talk about, hey, when I wake up in the morning, My job is to make sure Josette has all that she needs for the day. When Josette wakes up in the morning, her job is to make sure I have all that I need for the day. If I wake up looking out for me and Josette wakes up looking out for me, who's looking out for her?
Right.
If she wakes up looking out for her and I wake up looking out for her, who's looking out for me? And so learning that early is big, because we just came from 21 years of it being just about me.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I got 21 years. I'm a professional at looking out for me.
Right.
Oh, I know how to look out for me. This new thing is, whoa, what you mean I gotta, so let's start slow, buddy. If you go to the store, what's her favorite candy bar? What she like Kit Kat? Get one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Start that. Start there.
Yeah.
Start with a candy bar.
Right.
And then work your way up to a car.
Yeah.
Work your way up. Yeah. So that's how I would answer that question, man.
Wow. I love it. And you know, I guess I'm sitting here thinking and listening to you. It's amazing because in our own personal lives, we have models and mentors and motivators
all day.
But you know, not many of us take on a model couple or a mentor couple.
Yeah.
Or you know, to kind of, because there will be bumps in the road. And so, you know, to have that older couple to, you know, lean and
what's dangerous now is that many are holding up this idea of a power couple.
Yeah.
That's coming from not so great of an example. And there's no accountability in the idea of a so-called power couple.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
You know, and that's a big difference than having an accountability partner couple.
Yes, sir.
That can actually hold you accountable.
Yeah.
Right. Which, you know, I said it before, I'll say it again. Accountability is the kryptonite of American society.
Yes, sir.
We don't want to take accountability for anything.
And here's why I think that, here's my 2 cents on why that is. You know, as you ran down a list of things, you say, man, we got mentors in this area, mentors in this area, mentors in this area. Because that was already a system or an ideology in place to say that was okay. You know, hey man, can somebody teach me how to drive? You know, sure. Why? Because society says that's already acceptable.
Right.
Hey, can somebody show me how to do this? And somebody needs to show me how to do that. But when I ask you to show me how to be a man, or show me how to be a husband, now that's kind of personal. Man.
Right.
Because here's what I just said. I don't know how.
Right.
I don't mind saying I don't know how to drive.
Right.
I don't mind saying I don't know how to cook this. And I don't mind saying, but to say I don't know how to be a husband, that's going to hit different. Because now I've got to go back and admit that some of those other things I said and decisions I made was an error. It was an error. So we take it personally when to ask somebody else, hey, help me be a man, help me be a husband. We're starting this new Bible study series tonight. Manhood Restored, Dr. Eric Mason. Great stuff.
Yeah.
And so we're going to be carrying men through that, man. I can't tell you how many times over the years I've, at the end of a session or going into a session with just a husband, I'm saying, man, you need this book. You need this, you need this, you need this book over here, because we don't always know how to be a husband or wife.
Right.
Yep.
I think the personal growth piece is also big in our own lived experience. If we got a piece of technology and it stayed exactly the same from the day we bought it, we would never buy that product again. Everything else that we get, there's an upgrade path. There's a new set of software that improves the existing features of the hardware that's already in place.
Right, sir.
So it's kind of naive of us to think that we can get married and stay on version 1.
Right, the entire time.
And still maintain an install base.
Right.
Does that make sense? A customer base.
Because if you married to one of these creatures called woman, you think your iPhone changed, right?
Who changed this setting?
Yes, sir.
You know?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So you have to be willing to humble yourself to somebody else's leadership, direction, mentoring, and teaching. You got to be open to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And and again, if you're not, if you weren't born a husband,
right?
So
You became.
why is it so wrong to say, show me how to?
Well, so there's a personal self-interest in learning how to drive,
Sure.
learning a craft, because you're learning to enhance your own skill set for your own personal benefit.
Yeah.
But learning to be a husband, you're learning for someone else's benefit.
Yeah, good stuff, man.
So
Absolutely.
now it's like, wait a minute, there's got to be a paradigm shift, and that's scary.
Yeah.
Right.
Because Pastor Skinner, at my church, Good Shepherd, our senior pastor, talks about how you don't have to teach children to do wrong.
Amen.
It comes naturally.
Amen.
Right.
Amen.
That's standard.
It's built in.
It's built in. That's that's standard issue.
Right.
So to be selfish
Yeah.
is the standard operating procedure
Right.
of humanity.
Absolutely.
And so to come out of that with someone that was raised perhaps a different way that you were raised, that came from a different socioeconomic background, that puts the toilet paper dropping behind, that squeezes the toothpaste at the bottom instead of the way that the Lord intended, which was the end, to maintain the structural integrity of the tube. But anyways, so but all these things you don't find out.
Yeah, man.
Until after I do.
Yeah. And then that's key, even when you said communication, because you're really merging two different, when I was coming up, if you drunk out of a cup, when this before people use solo cups, we had plastic cups or whatever.
This is your cup.
Yeah, you drunk out of a cup, that's your cup.
That's your cup.
Sir.
Put it in the refrigerator.
Yes, sir.
That's your cup.
Whatever.
You got a mark and put your name on it.
Right. That's
because Mama didn't want to wash a whole bunch of dishes.
Amen.
Right.
And then I get married, and Erica's putting dishes in the dish, in the sink all day, and I'm like, this ain't how we do this. This is wrong on every level.
Yeah.
So merging those and those ideas into now one household.
Yeah.
There has to be some communication.
Man, here's what's funny. You talk about them dishes. So when we got married, man, my mom, did things a certain way, just like everybody else's mama did.
Mm-hmm.
So we get married, and Josette is doing some laundry, and I see her folding the clothes, and she starts folding towels. And she's it's kind of like they do it in the movies. She's folding towels, putting them on the right, turn to the left. And then when she come back, that towel is moved. That's because I took it and refolded it because it didn't look right. That's not how you fold towels. You got to fold the towel so you can see that nice, perfect circle in the inside. And when you put them up, they look like this in the thing. So she was like, hey, what you doing? What you doing? She said, baby, that's not how you fold clothes. Like, oh, okay. All right. Well, so what is this? Well, my mama folded them like this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. So then fast forward, we get to the grocery store. And I start talking about some kind of meal that she was going to make. And I told her, well, see, my mama made it like this and da-da-da. And she said, I ain't your mama. And watch this now. So we're on aisle, I'm going to just say we're on aisle 4.
Uh-huh.
She starts walking. She gets to aisle 5 and don't realize I'm not with her. And turn around and come back, and I'm in the same spot. I can't move because she just cut me that deep. Because I was thinking, my mama said it like this.
Right.
So we do walk into this marital context forgetting that this person has just as much experience of life as I do.
Mm-hmm.
They got some preferences just like I do.
Absolutely.
How do we merge those two together is the work that it takes. And that's why we consider marriage, as Joe said and I talk, we consider marriage the pro league of relationships. It's the pros.
Mm-hmm.
There is no higher level of relationship between a man and a woman in society.
Mm-hmm.
There is none. So you got girlfriend, boyfriend, you got fiancés, you got somebody you're hooking up with, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get to marriage, man and wife, there is no next level. You've reached the top.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way we frame that up is I played flag football at the YMCA, Northeast Houston. I went to Kirby and started playing tackle. Well, the guys that played with me in flag football, all of them didn't gravitate over the tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because we started hitting. It was contact.
Mm-hmm.
Then move up to high school. Not everybody who played in middle school played high school. Why? Because the hits are harder.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Then you go to college, and you got some guys that played in high school. You just know they going to college and school and whatever and play big time.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Greater commitment,
Right.
harder hits.
Right.
Pro league, you start seeing guys drift off again.
Mm-hmm.
Why? because the commitment is greater, the sacrifice is greater,
Right.
the service is greater. Everything is greater now. And if you don't know that coming in, man, you're gonna be just
Absolutely.
laying wait for a rude awakening.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a pros.
Yeah. And then you end up, a failure before you start
Mm-hmm.
because you didn't, what the Bible say, count up the cost.
Count up the cost. Or give it somebody who knew how much it was gonna cost.
Absolutely.
So they can loan you some money.
Right.
And be like, yeah, you're gonna need this, Doc. You're gonna need this.
Right.
You're gonna need this.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Going with the sports analogy, it would be ideal if you made your way all the way through those ranks
I know where you're going.
that you got with one team and you stayed with the same team
Same team.
the whole career.
Yeah, man.
The whole career.
Yeah.
So an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Yeah.
So compared with children and married couple families, okay, we're going to get on children raised in single parent households are more likely to drop out of school, to have or cause a teen pregnancy, and to experience divorce in adulthood. Okay. With that in mind, how should the church prepare its young adults in order to prevent single parent households and divorce?
I think one of the things that the church has to do a better job at is promoting families intentionally and not just haphazardly.
Right.
They got to do it on purpose. It's funny you say that. This coming Saturday at our church at Crossover, we're having an event between what we call Pathfinders. That's the name of that ministry. It's the 55 and up. It's the mature adults.
Okay.
And then our Truth young adult ministry. And we've been trying to bring them together for years as we identified the Pathfinders. The Pathfinders I think they just came about somewhere around 2016. Well, the church is 2006. So there was nothing there for 10 years.
Wow.
All right. And so they were just there dormant. Pastor Blake does a series, Devoted Church, and he wants all the ministry leaders to preach it. I preach that message to introduce the Pathfinders. And I open up with this illustration. The Beverly Hillbillies was a country group of family that was sitting on some property for years and years and years. And by accident, he shoots in the ground at some food and strikes oil. Well, that oil was always there. Those Pathfinders were always there. We just didn't access them like we needed to. And so now we're being intentional about accessing them. So now we have this event coming up this coming Sunday, Saturday, the Titus experience, Titus 2 experience. Older men, younger men. Older women, younger women. All right? And so you got to be intentional about doing things like that. Not that we're perfect or anything, because it took us a long time to just get this program. But I would say churches need to be intentional about making it available to the young adults, these places of safe conversations and safe relationships, and because as much as they think they know, they don't know. So they don't know they're going to need somebody in their life later on to tell them that, baby, this is how you handle that. Baby, don't talk to your husband like that. Why don't do that, man, like that. Hey, young man, come here. Don't grab your wife like that, man, in public. Don't grab her like that in private. They need that. They just don't know they need it. So I would say church be intentional about how they address it and make sure they provide it. But young folk, is this the camera right here?
Yeah, right there.
When the church is serving the food, as Pastor Blake say, go eat.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, so that's the B part.
There you go.
They got to go eat.
Yeah.
You can't put it on the table and registration be weak.
Right.
Right. Yeah, you got to go eat. Got to go eat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
And I know that, I know Canaan was, our upbringing, maybe not intentional, but there were a lot of,
by the way,
model couples that, and again, if even, coming up, and I'll say it because I was, intimately, in that family, my best friend, Julius Jackson Boone, Boone.
Yeah.
He was came out of a single family household, but he had brother and sister Jackson, his grandparents,
yes, sir,
who were
all stars,
model couple, and
Hall of Famers.
Yes, sir, and they did it on a whole nother level. And so, now his image of, family household is framed with his experience and the experience of his grandparents.
Yep.
Right.
So I think just too often we take for granted that our kids see certain things, and a lot of times they don't.
Right.
So it's just a matter of putting it in front of them.
And while churches of our time, back in the day, Canaan Baptist Church, they didn't have ministries per se set up like that, but they had members.
Right.
Brother and Sister Jackson, Brother and Sister LaDue, Brother and Sister Moore, all those names going back from the Canaan days that didn't mind saying, come here, young lady.
Right.
Come here.
Right.
Pull that down.
Right.
Pick that up. They didn't mind that. They didn't mind.
Right.
The modern day church just took all those people and put them together and called it a ministry, but you had members that was willing to do it.
Right.
And so I think that's what we got to do. And we got to keep up with the times, man.
Yeah.
I think the church fell behind by fighting, as we were talking, I think, before the thing, by fighting technology and fighting culture. You still have to find a way to reach those people.
Right.
And you got to come off of your horse to get them sometime.
Right.
I think it was Paul who said, I became all things to all people that I might save some.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there are spaces, and especially as a growing portion of social media, especially on YouTube, where relationship issues are being discussed. There is a crop of social media influencers. One recently passed, Kevin Samuels, but you have others that are basically they separate into one of two camps, and one is either what's now called red pill, and that's mainly a men's focused arena, where everything is about the preservation of resources for the man and, defending men's rights, if you will.
Gotcha.
And then the other side is the opposite of that, which is, in a way, coaching young ladies on how to finesse their way to get said resources, to get, basically, each side is trying to extract the most value out of the other with the least commitment.
Wow.
Right. And so the old words for this was misogyny and misandry, which is basically men that basically don't, not that they don't like women,
they don't value them.
They don't value them.
Right.
And the same thing, so modern day feminism that would be misandry. So we have misogyny and misandry that are now existing under new names that have talking heads as dating coaches.
Yep.
How should the church address this new modern misogyny and misandry where you have men and women before they get married are trying to either extract as much value from the other without getting married, or get married in order to extract more value?
Gotcha. I think the church has to change the mindset of addressing an issue as opposed to creating an option.
Wow.
See, addressing an issue is getting a clip of a Samuels or whoever else is out there and saying, it's crazy, blah, 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 and boom, you're done. I addressed an issue.
Right.
But what I didn't do is give you an option. There's no alternative.
Right.
Well, so you told me don't watch that and don't, that person's crazy. Well, what do you have for me?
Right.
Long term.
Right.
I'm willing to spend time. So, it's kind of like the marriage maintenance in 1 minute concept. I had no idea what it was going to do and the feedback that it was going to get, but I knew I wanted to provide an option to address some of what I call foolishness, some of the stuff that was out there, and I wanted to package it in such a way where it didn't take long to get it.
Right.
1 minute of your time and I'm out. I'm done.
Right.
Boom.
Right.
So that was a way of giving an alternative or an option, not addressing a problem.
Right.
So that's what I would say. The church has to change the mindset of addressing an issue, having a sermon. Today's sermon is going to be about what happened, last week. The Will Smith and the Chris Rock deal. I'm gonna address that. Okay, cool. And then next Sunday we're gonna talk about this. Okay, whoa.
Yeah.
You addressed it, but you didn't give me an option. And by the way, old boy still got an anger issue and he's still grabbing on me and he's still hitting on me on the cool. So what is my option or alternative long term?
Right.
Well, yeah. So content creators, they focus more on the condition than the conclusion
Sure.
Yeah.
because there's more clicks in less just talking about how we are than where we need to be.
Yep.
So, and that's one thing I applaud you for, and I like in your content is that you provide a pathway to a conclusion.
Sure.
You
Thank you, sir.
provide, you know, it's like, hey, not only, hey, this is the problem, but also here's a solution that can get you into a better situation.
Appreciate it.
Right.
You know, so.
Right. Now, I love it. I live on marriage maintenance in the meeting.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, and again, you know, some of it is for us that admitting that you can learn. I think sometimes when you've been married for a period, you're like, I got it.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you might be surviving. but
Right.
not
And thriving.
Yes, sir.
You know,
Right.
so it's like you can there's the biggest room, Big Mama said, the biggest room in everybody's house.
Is a room for improvement.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
I love
you know,
it. I love it.
yeah.
I love it.
No,
Everybody
absolutely.
can get better. And matter of fact, when we were talking about Kevin Samuels and others alike, you know, a good read, I don't even know if they still make it or still printing it, but a good read written by John Adolph, Lakewood guy, Marriage is for Losers.
Okay.
And so his idea is there's some sacrifice that needs to be
I love
made
that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
in marriage. So come in the door willing
To sacrifice.
to give up something.
Mhm.
Philippians
You know,
chapter 2.
And I
Mhm.
think we're in a culture where everybody's trying to get what they can get.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you got women who are trying to, you know, and I listened to a couple of Samuel's videos, and you know, and I know people kind of ran him down, but I'm like, you know, they're not really giving them a lot to work with.
Gotcha.
You know,
Right.
women calling,
Yeah.
hey, a man got to have make 6 figures for me, and then he's like, you got any kids? Y'all got 4 kids. Well, how many baby dads you got? Well, y'all got 4.
Yeah.
3 of them in jail,
Yeah,
and the other.
yeah.
He's like,
Mhm.
come on, but you're not giving a lot,
Right.
but you want a lot in return. And I think that's just the generation we live in, and we view marriage like that,
Mhm.
and you know, family like that. So everybody's trying to finesse,
Yep.
Finesse.
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
you know, give as little as possible,
But get as much.
But
and
get as much as
get as
possible.
much as possible. And
much
it's
as
not
possible.
it's not the image of commitment as much
Yeah.
as you know, it is bootleg donation. So and this ain't, you know, this is a good preaching illustration if you ever want to use it, Sean.
Mhm.
So there's a pig and a chicken.
Mhm.
They walk by and they see
Oh, yeah.
the church is giving a ham and egg breakfast.
Right.
Mhm.
And both of them decide to
Contribute.
give to it. Yeah,
Mhm.
you know. And so the pig is like, no, I'm not. So the chicken's like, yeah, we should.
Mhm.
He's like, no, I'm
Mhm.
making a commitment. And you're making a donation.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes,
and
sir.
you know, and that's what
Right.
it is. Like we live in a generation where people trying to
Mhm.
get as much and give as less as possible. And that's just, especially as it comes to marriage,
Mhm.
you know, you're gonna get what you put in.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know that work is gonna produce what you put in. So now I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
I think, man, to go along with that, you know, we say marriage is what you make it. We on our end, we say marriage is how you manage it.
Okay.
So we have to know that it's an ongoing process, and it's just not. We said I do, so I guess we done.
Yeah.
You know, and we're where we need to be. No, you finna grow like you never thought
Yeah.
before, and you got to come in. You got to in a marriage knowing that I'm not the best, but I'm willing to change and make myself better for
Mhm.
you. You know, couples run into problems when they try to change one another.
Wow.
I think
Mm.
change is appropriate. It's just who's doing it,
Right.
who's doing the changing.
Right.
I need to introduce change to Josette, but I need to introduce it about me.
Mhm.
I need to
Right.
give you a better me than you got last year.
Mhm.
And I'm hoping you adopt the same mentality of giving me a better you
Wow.
than I had last year.
Mhm.
That's when it works much better. But if I think I've arrived
Right.
Yeah.
and I'm where I need to be, then you need to catch up with me. I need you to change. And those dynamics come in different ways. All right. Sometimes it's somebody who has been married before, and I'm
Mhm.
marrying somebody who's never been married before. So guess who's the expert in the room? Me.
Me,
Mhm.
right,
Yeah.
right.
So hey, I need you to do it like this because you don't know anything about this.
Yeah.
I've been married before.
Yeah.
Here's what it is. But you ain't
Right.
never been married to this one.
Right.
And if
Right.
he wanted to get dirty, he could tell you where it didn't work. So
Right. You
what happened?
failed.
You
So
failed.
Right.
That's why I listen to you anyway.
Right.
So you got those. You got people who wait till they get older and they settled in their ways, and they're thinking, okay, I know how to manage a house. I owned a house before I got you, and you got all that. But you've never done that with someone. Somebody you had to confer with and get their opinion about something. And when they said no, it was, no. Okay, I guess it's no. You don't know that world, so don't act like you do. Come in looking to be changed, looking to make changes, looking to be changed, looking to appreciate and serve.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Gotcha.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
I'm I've and I want you to help with this, because I sometimes I pick on myself as a father.
Okay.
Because I see the world around us and I see how it's changing.
Yep.
So, and I push the boy, like, hey, don't settle, be greater than the greatest you.
Sure.
So the oldest one got to UT, things got difficult. He was like, man, I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna transfer. I'm like, hey, don't let that beat you.
Huh.
Like, what you need, let's keep pushing.
Yeah.
He graduated in 4 years. Toward the end of 4 years, he like, hey, Dad, pray with me about what to do next. Like, hey, bachelor's is good, but you better get you a grad degree. Like, and I'm just always pushing him.
Sure.
And even Evan, the baby, he's like, different makeup. So Evan is like, Dad, you tripping. I'm gonna go at my own pace, but I'm just always pushing him. And sometimes I'm like, am I pushing them too hard or too much? So even in like the family dynamic,
sure,
because I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe the father, the man, sets the temperature of the house. Like you like
the thermostat.
Yeah, I mean, you determine, how things are gonna pan out just by how you respond and react. If you're a nervous driver, if you're the father, you're at the wheel.
Right.
If you panic, everybody in the car is gonna panic.
That's it.
So my thing is I'm always pushing them, trying to be as calm as possible, even when I gotta go by myself in the bathroom. Like, God, how we gonna, what I'm saying? How we gonna figure this out?
Yeah.
But I'm like, am I pushing my boys too much or too hard? So for the fathers that are either not pushing their children at all,
okay,
or pushing their children too much, like what is the line?
Okay. Great way to end that question. What is the line? I learned an important word probably somewhere around 2000, I'm going to say 2015, 16. It was kind of like the word of the year that kept coming up in my spirit, so to speak. That was balance. Balance. Everything, you have to balance it out. You have to balance out, how you husband, how you father, how you mother, how you wife. You got to balance that stuff out. And so while on one hand, I got to give you some harsh, true love, the next time I can give you some mercy, grace, and all of that. Ephesians 4 talks about that, somewhere around verse number 29. It talks about, let no unwholesome word proceed out of your mouth, but only such a word that is good for edification, for the need of the moment, so that we may give grace to those who hear. That need of the moment is what people run by. What does that moment need? What does my child need in this moment? Do they need a hug? Well, let me hug them. Do they need to be told they're great? Well, let me tell them that. Do they need to be checked? Let me check them.
Right.
The need of the moment is an important piece of that scripture that gets run by. But the end of it, did they get grace? Do they feel like, they were showered with grace based off what I gave them for that need? So I think balance is very important. If your son at that moment, obviously, at that moment in his life when he was ready to give up and switch lanes, he needed dad to come along and say, no, you got this. I'm back here. You see me back here? That's me holding.
Yeah.
I'm holding you up. I'm pushing. I'm back here, man. We got it. That was balance.
Gotcha.
You talk about the husbandry and the father of the home sets the temperature. Here's my take on that. I think there are several thermometers or thermostats in the house. What we do, we talk about setting the temperature, and we do it when it's convenient. We do it, and listen, I'm too hot right now. Let me change this temperature and cool off in here, and y'all just gonna deal with this. I set the temperature. But when it comes time for spiritual guidance, Set the temperature, dog.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Come on,
Keep
dog,
that
set
same energy.
Keep that same
Keep
energy.
that same energy.
Yeah.
Exactly. Come on. Show me that spirituality part.
Yeah.
Oh, you shrink back. Oh,
Yeah.
dog. But you set the temperature.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, so we have to be sure that when we take on that responsibility, we're willing to take all of it.
Yeah.
And not cherry pick and say, well, I'm the man of the house, but
Until
you pay them bills. I don't know about that.
Right.
Call who? Can you set my doctor's appointment for me? My foot hurt. But no, dog, set the temperature.
Yeah.
So as we set the temperature in the home, we need to make sure we're setting it so it's conducive for everybody.
Right.
And not just you,
Right.
as the husband. Because you also need to set a temperature of people being able to express themselves respectfully, but hey, nobody's walking on eggshells. Gotta tip up on. Excuse me, daddy.
Right.
Oh, your wife got a baby, honey. I'm sorry.
Right.
Now everybody walking on eggshells.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Because you set the temperature.
Right.
That's the temperature you set.
Right.
And by the way, there's no accountability partner, so they can't call nobody to check you for that foolishness you do. It all goes together.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We say marriage is like a spider web. It's like a spider web. There's 1,000 lines to it, but they're all connected. They're all connected. So you can't expect, and generally that kind of statement comes up when there are problems. All right, so I may switch the lanes a little bit, but if you having a problem in communication and wondering why you're not getting no loving, and you thinking they're totally separated, you compartmentalize it. No, buddy, that line goes all the way around the room and it ends up over there.
Right.
That's
Right.
it. That's it right there.
Right.
That's it right there. You came in the house the other day and you just start barking and not speaking to nobody, and then later on that night you like, hey man,
Right.
no, that was connected.
Yeah, gotcha.
Right.
That may lead into this next topic I want to bring up. So experts define sexless marriages as a couple having sex less than 10 times per year. On average, married Americans have sex 51 times per year. So on average, once a week. All right. How should the church come alongside couples that find themselves in sexless marriages?
Got to talk about sex. Got to talk about sex. Can't be listen, if you out there and you on the northwest side of town, and you ever heard of this old church called Crossover Bible Fellowship, that Pastor Blake Wilson is going to talk about sex. Matter of fact, he wrote up a curriculum on it called it was on sex. We did a conference on Naked and Unashamed, but sex in the gospel. That's what he did. Okay. He did a curriculum on sex in the gospel, and churches from other places start sending for him and saying, "Hey, come, we want that taught here." And you got to do it from a biblical place. And you can't just be in your feelings and all, using street language and all that kind of stuff. Because you think about it, these folks who are following you, your congregants, they've been following you all this time, and you've been telling them Bible, Bible, Bible. And then when you can't show me that part in the Bible, they're like, okay, well, is that your opinion? Or is that, you looking out for your boy? What you doing? What are you actually doing? But when you can take them to 2 Corinthians chapter 7, don't deprive one another except for a season. Your body is not yours. When you can take them there and show them that, when you can point to them and tell them, hey, man, there's at least 4 things, that God provided sex for. Procreation, consummation, recreation, and protection. At least minimum of at least 4, and protecting your marriage is very important. And God uses sex to protect your marriage. It's in the book. If you got an issue with it, God just revealed in your heart where you got a problem with him, not me.
Right.
Pay me whatever the charge is for the session, and I'm keep moving. Matter of fact, tonight on your behalf, I'm gonna sleep with my wife. But we got to be willing to teach it.
Yeah,
we got to be willing to have a platform for discussion, and that's big because I can teach it, but if I don't hit your spot, no pun intended. Wow, that was horrible. But if I don't come across the subject matter, if I don't raise the issue that you're having, at least I can provide a platform for you to address that.
Right.
Hey, I got a question. What do you do when your husband still wants you to, perform oral sex on him and he just came from the gym? And I've been trying to tell him in a nice way. Stop telling him in a nice way. Tell him you stink. Yeah, just don't tell him because he's missing your point.
Yeah.
Baby, you smell.
Yeah.
You smell. I can't do nothing for you right now.
Right.
Go shower.
Go shower.
Go shower.
Exactly.
Go shower.
Exactly.
I think all of those things are necessary for the church to do.
Mm-hmm.
And we're very fortunate. Like I said, Pastor Blake is known for teaching a certain series. So quite naturally, the culture, though the other leaders kind of come behind and we're not ashamed either. So here I am, an elder of the church, so I'm going to say, I'm going to teach it. Here's our class. And when you come to me, do understand I'm coming.
Right.
I'm like, no pun intended. God, that's another one. That's another one.
Right.
I am going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's, I don't know why, especially in the church circle,
Sure.
why we avoid conversations
because
like
we watch this. Here's why. We bring street experience to the church setting.
Right.
And we wrestle with it because we knew what we did and how we did it in the streets. When we can leave that out there and just go straight Bible and still be bringing some nuggets.
Right.
You listen to Solomon talk about them breasts and sucking and all that. You like, God, dude, it was is this Bible?
Right.
This can't be no Bible.
Right.
I still have people to this day, man, come to me as Christians, and when we're doing that premarital and we hitting on sex, they like, you ain't know that was in the book? It's right there. Been there the whole time.
Right.
And he probably looking like, I need to read this Bible.
Right. It's a real page turner.
This is all right. Baby, why you didn't tell me this was in here? No, but man, I think churches could do a better job of presenting it.
Yeah.
I think they could do a better job of creating a space for dialogue about it. And I think that they could do a better job of talking about their failures at it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. See, somebody needs to know that as long as you've been preaching and teaching and pastoring and all of that, y'all have some dry seasons.
Right.
Then I go with another pun.
Right.
God dog.
Right.
But y'all not always on one accord. There's some man that, listen, right there, you brother out there, here's what I want to bless you with right now. See, you need to know that there are going to be some days when you want to perform and you can't. And what do you do about that? What do you do about that? Do you hide and, do you like, oh man, I can't tell nobody that last night I ain't have a great night. Right. I can't tell nobody that. Well, if you don't tell nobody, I can't tell you how I overcame it.
Right.
Or what I did about it. I can't send you to my doctor and say, oh, I know what happened, right? Right. Okay. Come here, man. Come here.
Right.
Right here on my shoulder.
Right.
We good. Write this down. Go see this guy. We didn't do that back in the day.
No, not at all.
We didn't do that back in the day. Even if we had kept it in silence, brother.
Yeah.
Right.
And so then we started to developing these, these characteristics and these, maladaptive behaviors that. Pornography and other people, and now we all over the place when all we had to do was just talk about it.
Right.
Just talk about it. Say something.
Part of the reason I bring that up is because it's the worst amongst Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z.
Okay.
Because they're waiting later to get married.
Yep.
And because of technology, whether that be distraction or deception, whatever the case may be, there's so many avenues to take yourself away, career, all these different things that take away from, the sexual act in marriage. In marriage in sacred matrimony. So it's something that is getting worse.
Yeah.
The statistics are saying that, hey, people are waiting longer and longer to get married. Once they're married, they're having sex less and less and less often.
Sure.
Psychology Today said, hey, if you have sex less than once a week, you're not as happy as people that do.
Wow.
I mean,
right.
Wow. What a profundity, you know. So you know,
Sean, here's I'd like to add this level to it. You're reading statistics that are showing this.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I would like to introduce or as a possibility,
mm-hmm.
were there any stats being even taken back when our parents were growing up?
Right. Probably not. Wasn't even studied.
It wasn't even a study. So who's to say that this is a new phenomenon?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know?
Right. It's not a new phenomenon, but they've surveyed people from all ages.
Okay.
And what they're saying is that in the age spectrum,
sure,
that at the, millennial, which is my generation,
sure,
and Gen Z, they're having sex the least often.
All right. My second point was coming to this.
Mm-hmm.
So my first point was I wanted to say, man, were there even reports being done?
Right.
Surveys being done. The other part is, there is some, I believe that there is some truth to the fact of we might be worn out.
Desensitized.
So, yeah. So
no, I see.
Here I am 35.
Mm-hmm.
So the survey wants to know who's at 35 waiting to get married.
Mm-hmm.
And then they want to tie in, okay, well, now that you're married, how often do you have sex?
Mm-hmm.
Well, not that much. Okay, so let me find out. I missed the survey. Let's go back. How much sex did you have?
Right. On the way.
On the way.
Yeah, right.
Was it something that you was like casual about and whenever, however, and do you have multiple partners?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there may be some truth to the fact that you done.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't have as much. Listen, Proverbs talk about don't just, let your waters flow in the streets.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Don't give all your vigor away.
Right.
What is that about? Well, it's saying, Doc, you only had so much.
Right.
You was only going to be gifted with so much.
Too many miles.
Right, exactly.
You done burned your time.
Right. There's some truth to that, man.
Yeah.
And then when you finally get married, the person you were supposed to be waiting for, man, listen, when I lost my virginity in the 6th grade, I remember who it was with. I remember where it was. And then there was a path of pornography after that followed me into my adulthood. And what I had to learn was taking a class at Crossover for men. It was something on Conqueror, but it was talking about pornography. Mm-hmm. And so in that class, the guy who's teaching it, he makes this connection about the stuff that is released in the brain.
Endorphins. Yeah.
Endorphins. Yeah. That's what people in drugs, we call them crackheads. Mm-hmm. They're chasing that high. What high are they chasing? When they first took it, that endorphin came out and they had never felt that before. They're like, oh my God, what is that?
Yeah.
Right.
That's the same thing with sex.
Right.
God didn't want that released until you were with your spouse.
Right.
But when it got released, you're like, oh, I got to do that again.
Yeah.
Right.
We was chasing that high, and so we chase, and we got all of these things, and now we get in the environment that it was designed for, and we're tired, we're wore out. It don't mean the same. Oh, is that all you got? And now we comparing our spouses. Oh, we comparing ourselves based on what we didn't,
Right.
It's like, man, it's all messed up. It's the wiring is all off now, and all of that. And so I would say to those people who waited so long, got some miles, but then got over here and now they don't feel the same and they're having less sex, they got to own some stuff.
Yeah.
They got to own some stuff and say, you know what? Part of this is on me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You got to make that connection. But you also got to be willing to say, you know what? With God, anything is possible.
Right.
We can start over.
Amen.
We can be fresh. And we can put some parameters in place. So here's where I go with that. Now, I'll try not to be long-winded. So
I'll be long-winded.
All right. When we talk about sex, okay, this was an area that my wife and I, we didn't do so well in the beginning. I'm wondering how in the world do we even get to marriage counseling, counseling folk, because I almost jacked our marriage up in the first 5 years, just by beating her over the head, verbally, of course, metaphorically, with her past and, guys she dated and all of that. And so I just kept reminding her, and why did you do it? And that dude, and da-da-da-da. And then one day the Holy Spirit called me and say, now you realize every time you ask her a question or every time you try to address a past relationship with her, she's got to get back in the car, go back to the place, go back to the room, get back undressed, get back in the bed, and reenact it mentally just to answer your question. I said, oh God, that's enough for me. That's the last time I asked you that. Because that ain't what I was trying to do.
Right.
Yeah. So when it comes to sex, you got to put some parameters in place. You can't be talking about old stuff. That's one thing. Leave that old stuff out. You know, whatever that person did in their past, some of that made them who they are today, and that's who you fell in love with. So honor that and be okay with that and move on. But the other parts is we got to be willing to say, guess what? What is your sex appetite? What is we call it your sex appetite, really. What is it? So mine might be higher than yours, your sex drive. All right? You got to know your spouse's sex cycle. That's how we frame it. What is your spouse's sex cycle? How long can they go without having sex? All right? How many days, how many hours, how many weeks, how many months, whatever it is, you got to have that conversation. And both you guys have got to be willing to meet somewhere in the middle and say, okay, here's what we can come up with. We're going to make sure that we protect our marriage in the area of sex. It ain't always going to be, you know, hunky-dory or it ain't always be flowers and roses, but we're going to make sure we engage with one another sexually at a minimum of XYZ. Right. We're not going past so many days. Here's what that does, Sean. For the one with the high sex drive, who is like, okay, man, I don't want to go ask him again because I feel like I'm going to get turned down. Or I don't want to go ask him again because I'm going to feel like, because it happens the other way too. Right. We see that. So you say it, all right, so if our day is, I don't know, 3 days, every 3 days, then me with the higher sex drive, I can be patient and wait.
Right.
You with the lower sex drive, you can get ready and prepare.
Wow.
And so we're both coming now, and it's a no-brainer. It's like, okay, well, let's enjoy one another. Because we know what this is, right? We here now. Right. And so you put parameters in place like that, man, so that you make sure you're maintaining and you're taking care of one another's needs. Because if it's in the text that if you're not engaging, you're leaving the door open for the enemy, then do know the enemy is waiting.
Right.
So don't say foolish things like, well, go get it from somewhere else. Well, I don't care what you do. Don't bother me. Right. Do you realize what you just said?
Right.
You know the enemy was waiting on you to say something like that, right?
Right.
You know, so that's how I would address that, man. I would talk to people, create a platform in terms of the church, create a platform for people to engage with it, but also be real with people and let them know, hey, these are some areas that we all struggle with, potentially at some point in time, you know, and start doing something about it. Don't just talk about a problem, put some stuff in place in your marriage.
Right.
In your own marriage.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes,
so you hope me.
Yeah. Right.
Amen.
And you know, again, that's why I wanted him on. You know.
Oh yeah.
Because these are discussions that need to be had.
Amen.
In spiritual circles.
Amen. Safe places too.
Not the barbershop.
Yes, sir.
Right. And that, you know, and again, with the setup of our show, TBT is True Be Told.
Yes, sir.
Because there's a lot of things that we avoid talking about in church.
Yeah, man.
That I wanted to bring give an opportunity for us to discuss.
Put some legs on.
Yeah, and just like anything else, guys, I'll add this to it. Just like anything else, we got to own our part too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because we haven't always handled intimate, sensitive subject matters very well. You know, you got a husband and wife that went to this pastor to talk to him about their marriage, and they talking about sex, and you know he wound up saying, "Oh, okay," and then she get a phone call after, you know, with an invite,
right,
you know,
private session,
yeah. So we got to own that and say, all right, well that we did that wrong, because those stories got out too,
right.
And they moved on from one generation to the next, and so now folks are like, "No,
don't
man,
go to the church.
Don't do that.
My big daddy told me his friend Junebug, him and his wife went to Pastor Johnson, and we gotta own that. We gotta own it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Absolutely. I'm excited, man. We got to do this again.
Love to, man. I hope you. I hope I didn't run any of your viewers away.
Oh no,
no.
Probably drew some.
Right.
Open the doors of the Apple Podcast.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I was excited about it, man. You blessed me to no end today.
Thanks, man.
Thank
Can
you
I
for
tell them
coming
how to
on.
find me?
Absolutely.
And we'll add all your links as well. So
Good deal, good deal. So if you or somebody you know is looking for premarital counseling or marriage counseling, you can hit us up at married@crossoverbf.com. That's married@crossoverbf.com. We'd love to talk to you about, your marriage or anything like that. And it's not just for members of the church. We do counseling for members and non-members. And so we'd love to share with you and talk to you. Or if you want to find us, I'm on Facebook, Royce F. Robinson. Instagram, Royce F. Robinson. TikTok, Royce F. Robinson. You can see the videos on TikTok for marriage maintenance in 1 minute. Those come out on TikTok, and I share them with the other platforms. But that's what they are, Royce F. Robinson.
you got anything else special going on that you want to shout out?
Wow, it's some stuff I can't say.
Okay.
But I got a buddy of mine out there, Kiati, Hardbody Kiati. He's on 97.9 The Box. I was on 97.9 The Box. And it's funny you mentioned that this is coming out for Father's Day because he and I did a segment on 97.9 The Box back in 2020 for Valentine's Day.
Okay.
And so we kind of did that. And from that, we started doing these Facebook and Instagram podcast type deals on real relationships with Royce F. Robinson and real relationships with Kiati. And there's some other things kind of brewing where people have caught wind of it and said, so.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see.
Well, as soon as you can say something, you got to come back and say something.
Right. Amen.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Right.
Sean, you got anything going on you want to shout out this week?
Man, we have, not this week, but Good Shepherd is going to be celebrating on 4th Sunday our 63rd church anniversary.
Oh, wow.
When we will have the Reverend France Brown as our guest.
Okay,
Yeah, so we're looking forward to that.
Good
That's
deal.
my dude. And then we've connected with France who'll be on.
Yeah, he can. We look forward to him being a guest in the near future.
Yeah. Real soon.
Be sure to tell him I sat in this seat before he did.
Okay. I rub it in his face.
Yeah. Tell him I sat in this seat.
Sit in that chair where Royce sat.
Man, I like to tell you guys thank you so much for having me, and I really appreciate it. I listened to your first segment. I was like, man, y'all got something going on. So keep this up, guys. Y'all doing great. Anthony, man, I'm so proud of you. I'm about to cry, dog.
Man, don't. You know I cry.
This guy right here, his whole family, man, is a part of my Christian journey story. I talk about y'all all the time. Whenever people ask me and I get interviewed, hey, how did you get in? Tell us a little bit about your story. I talk about my journey, and there's some families that, made an imprint in my life coming up, because we were single parent home, mom didn't have a car, and I meet this guy at school, and we make a connection, Craig Moten. And he's like, man, you want to spend the night at the house? But we're going to church. And I'm like, cool. I go to church. I know Jesus, And so they let me, man, I started spending the night over at the house back when you could spend the night.
Yeah,
right.
But I was spending the night, man, and I felt like my last name was Moten. They never made me feel any different. So much so, I joined the church, Canaan Baptist Church. I'm a member of Canaan because of them, not because we found it. Yeah. I went to church with them. The Jacksons, you talked about them earlier, they bought my choir robe because we couldn't afford it. Those kind of people that was there. And so you guys have a special place in my heart. So, man, thank you so much. Man. I jumped at the chance when you asked me would I do it. I'm tickled pink.
Well, we'll keep jumping because I'm going to ask again.
Amen.
Right.
I'm going to ask again.
Amen.
Man,
Amen.
Thank you for being here.
Yes, sir.
Meant a lot, and I mean, I was helped by the conversation. And again,
Absolutely.
These are conversations we need to have. And let me say, because it'll air before Father's Day. Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
Yes,
absolutely.
To all those fathers that are grinding and they find it difficult from time to time. Know that God, our Heavenly Father, is always with you.
Yes, sir.
And so happy Father's Day to you. Enjoy those socks.
Yeah.
That necktie, that's the most you're going to get.
Yeah.
Hey, now listen, the older your kids get, the better your gifts get.
Okay.
Oh, man, my daughter.
Really?
Nostalgia. Thank you.
I ain't hit that shit.
My feet stay fresh because of my daughter.
All right.
I just got my first pair of Jordans for my daughter.
What?
I'm trying to be hopeful.
Let me say to my sons that went all out for Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Father's Day is just as important.
Yes, sir. Yes, it is.
So y'all come to put your pennies together and come up with something.
In the words of the late Pastor Michael C. Davis Sr., it gets greater later.
Again, thank you for joining us on another episode of the TBT Show. Thank Royce for being here with us. And again, we'll share all of his links. If you're listening on podcast, go down to the bottom. You'll see all the links to his social media platforms. you're listening on YouTube, same thing. Go to the bottom, you'll see all of his links. And hopefully by the time this airs, we'll be the nailed down and smoothed out the Spotify, so we'll be on Spotify as well.
Mm-hmm.
Again, thank you for joining us. Share it, friends and family, as we get back to valuing marriage and family in our culture. It's a very important part, cornerstone of our culture. So again, grace and peace be with you. Until another episode, we pray that God's best be yours. See you next time, guys.